So I added 1 desert spoonful of white sugar, because do bear in mind, it says in the other method, but from the same book, put in boiling starch to 1 quart. And there it is making 1 quart in a Chinese technique, so it does not counterbalance the measurements. The measurements are the same whether using the other technique of that same book or the Chinese technique. Now, so I added in that pot, prior to adding the starch or the liquid, 1 desert spoonful of white sugar, thus that, and half a teaspoon of butter. Odd to add the butter with a teaspoon, but I did it. So that margarine instead of actual butter, but never mind. This stiffens the articles and gives a glossy finish. So I guess the glossy finish is from the butter, and also to counteract the action that the butter, although it makes it shiny, it will make it softer. So at least one adds sugar to make it stiffer. And then at the end it says, or a little dissolved gum arabic is useful to be added to a quart of boiled starch made in the useful manner. One is not sure what she means by made in the useful manner, but never mind. And gives a beautiful luster to the clothes and prevents the iron sticking. True, I never ironed. My iron literally slided through. It was magical. And it ironed much faster. The thing was literally all damp, all wet, and it dried super fast ironing with the... Well, never mind. So I added all those things I just said in there. Now, as I explained, I will put them back. So, there's starch all over the place. Damn hell, starch gets everywhere. And by the by, this is not even starch. This is, I purchased, the brand is, this is for cooking, Nature's Choice. And I purchased the one which said cornstarch on Amazon, but they actually instead gave me cornstarch flour. But oddly enough, it seems to have worked. 500 grams. Ingredients, corn. I wanted rice starch, which is better. But one could absolutely not find it upon Amazon. Getting things from eBay shipped as starch would have been so expensive. Would have had to come from abroad. And plus, they could think it is cocaine at the borders here and thus stop it. And so I would have paid all of that for nothing. So I was allowed to buy, not to allow shipments to come in. So never mind. So it was all in there. So then I followed the Chinese method, which was to add 3 teaspoonfuls of starch. It was dissolved in like a jar, measuring cup. I stirred it. It was all thick. I poured on 1 pint of boiling water, but prior to that, that is when I mixed with Haddon's technique. Oh, I forgot. In there, I also added glycerin. So glycerin, well, my little glycerin is that this literally costed 10 dirhams in Carrefour. This for the body. But one can get that in the same Carrefour, at least in the big one, in more of their minutes. I did not know back then. Then I discovered that that one costed even less, or max 10 dirhams, and there are much more in there. And plus the bottle looks old-fashioned and is made out of glass. This is made in Britain, by the by. So anyhow, I added a teaspoon of borax to a measuring cup. In that measuring cup, I added boiled water from the kettle, boiled tap water. So I added it up to it to be a pint. The measuring cup is a pint, so I added up till it was full. In fact, I have exactly the same measuring cups and Haddon. I will not go up there to fetch them, but never mind. So then and then I stirred. So I first added that to the borax. I stirred it well. Once it had cooled down just a teeny bit, I poured it into the starch that had been made from the Chinese technique, and then I added it all to there. stirred it, cooked it for 5 minutes. Meanwhile, I took 16 teaspoonfuls of starch. In another measuring cup, I have 3 of those. Mixed with half a large teacup of cold water. The teacup I used was... These are the spoons and tea in the teacup I used. So this is like a large teacup. So no, this is like a small teacup. Like I said, half large. So I filled all that. Maybe I put it too much, but never mind. So once it was cooked, I added it to there, stirred it, and finally, so the sauce was boiling. And it actually smelled of cooked butter and the garlic. And then this was scrubbed scrupulously clean beforehand, and also my bathtub. So I put that in the bathtub, poured that into this, and then took the shad in there, wrung it in, as to say there. And when I would take it out, it would be in the clean bathtub, and until it would be wrung out for the final thing, wrapped like a sausage, as to say that. In another section it says, wipe off the superfluous starch with a clean cloth. There was no superfluous starch. Stretch carefully in shape and dry. Instead of sprinkling, roll in a damp cloth wrung out of warm water, which is exactly what I did, and wrung it in that very large towel. Oh, never mind. And I left it there for 1 hour only 1 hour. Meanwhile, I prepared everything for the ironing, took it out and started ironing it. First the left of the bag, then the back of the bag, then that part, then this part, then that sleeve, then this sleeve, and then the back yoke, the collar, and finally the cuffs. But because the shad is so used, it obviously broke during the ironing, because I wore it so much. But the result is that the ironing went much faster. Obviously to iron, I used my large cooking sheets. I have some very large cooking sheets I purchased in Speeney's. These were actually quite expensive, like 20 dirhams. But are honestly worth it. Because for a shad, one needs large cooking sheets like that. And do not reuse them, because then they get too wrinkled. Just use. So I use one for when it is all damp. I use one to put on the surface of the ironing table and one on top of the shad to not stick to the iron. And then once it had begun to dry, I took it out and repeated that same thing for each new section of the shad. I.e. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, because I only did one side, but 5, 6. Then inside, outside the collar, the back yoke, whatever. So by the time I was doing the collar and the cuffs, they were dry enough. Even the yokes I was not using, the shad had dried basically. So not completely so, thank heaven, but I mean, it was not sticky to the point of my having to use the cooking sheets. Anyhow, the result is that once ironing, I had to do much less passes. It dried much quicker, perhaps due to all these chemicals and ingredients one had put prior into the starch. Who knows? Perhaps a mixture with the fabric, but also because the shad was well wrung out of starch prior to letting it dry, so that perhaps I had wrung it out more than before. For it says to wrung them out thoroughly in all of the old manuals, in all of them. I did not have to do dry spin like Helen White recommends. It was not needed. I did not even have a dry spin on my washing machine, so I did it the really old-fashioned way of the towel, like they would have back then. It did its work. There was no not the least bit of extra starch residue part of that thing, not at all. The result is that the shad is extremely silk-like. So it is quite stiff, but not so much in the collar, which is also very damaged inside. One can see due to scrubbing, the dirt stands out again and again and again. I've been wearing that